Now, the next interesting question is looking at what women base their self-esteem on. And what we find is that the more women base their self-esteem on their appearance, the more vulnerable they are to the media. And there's a few studies that have looked at that, some that have come out of my lab, and I will describe them a little bit. So for example, my student Karen Ip and I found that women who uh, more largely base their self-esteem on appearance are affected by the thin media. That is, they felt worse about their body image and they felt worse about it on dimensions. Another very interesting study that we conducted did here is we created conditions to temporarily negatively affect women's self-esteem, the women who came to our lab, not in the domain of appearance. So we wanted to see if people feel temporarily not so good about a domain that has nothing to do with their appearance, what will that do to their body image satisfaction? And interestingly, what we found is that when we delivered what we call the self-esteem threat, and then showed women thin models, the one who had seen, and we also showed them images, like glamorous images with no models, the women who had seen the thin models declared themselves more satisfied with their appearance. This was a very interesting effect that we did not expect fully. Um, and I attributed this to using those images to uh, develop an alternative source of self-esteem. It's as if they said, well, I've just been told that I'm not so good in this area of my life. Oh, but here are those thin models, and this is kind of an inspiration for me. I may not be very good at these other things, but I could be pretty and I could be thin. And of course, I've decided that I thought, well, this cannot possibly be. This cannot be, these women cannot be telling us that surely now I am authentically more satisfied with my image after I've received negative feedback and I've looked at thin models. Why would these women suddenly feel so much better about themselves? So I thought, well, if this is defensive, one way we might get to that is to look at the behavior rather than just looking at what people say. And so what we did in a subsequent study is we used the same procedure, but this time at the end of this procedure, we added another one where we told women that we were conducting a taste test study, a market research study, and we got them, asked them to taste different types of food, and we measured and weighed what they ate and so on. And what we found is that the women who had received a self-esteem threat and seen thin models ate less than women who also saw thin models but did not receive a self-esteem threat. And I think that this research is really interesting. Of course, it's mine. I like to think of it this way. But beyond these considerations, what it seems to suggest to us is that when people feel temporarily um, poorly about themselves in a certain area of their lives, and they are exposed to the thin media, um, they may nevertheless um, want to start to emulate that thin media to make themselves feel better. And of course, eating less in the lab is a proxy to dieting and eating less in the real world. And this is consistent with imitating those models who are very thin. So in conclusion, I think that what I'd like to suggest is that the media does not have a universal effect on women. within media. Um, the media is particularly damaging to people with either fragile self-esteem, a variety of reasons, or people who are perhaps currently in their lives, at any point in their lives, going through significant challenges, looking for an avenue of self-enhancement to feel better about themselves. And with this massive advertisement suggesting a way of feeling better about the self, then the media may be truly damaging for this for these people, in addition to what we already know from the literature, which is that women who already feel dissatisfied about their appearance are more vulnerable, low social support are more vulnerable. And that's it. Thank you very much.